What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and this is a second look at Bad Boys. Since the fourth one's coming out this summer, I decided to look at the Bad Boys franchise again. So, what you're gonna do? You're gonna click that subscribe button. That's what you're gonna do before I come for you. Bad Boys. Bad Boys. Anyway, this film stars Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, Taya Leoni, Joe Pantoliano, um, and it's directed by Michael Bay. And it is legitimately the good film in the franchise. Debatably, the other ones we can have conversations about, and I'm sure, like, depending on how big of a fan of Bad Boys you are, or Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, or Michael Bay, or not Michael Bay, or whatever it is that you have thoughts on, you'll either like or not like the other films in the franchise, or how much you'll like them, whatever. But it all started here. It started with the first Bad Boys. I caught this on Hulu. It doesn't have audio description. I've seen Bad Boys a couple times. I felt pretty comfortable going into this because I kind of knew. It's one of those things where if like somebody asked me, like, would you recommend Bad Boys? I would have said yes. Seen it enough times. I think it's a solid film. It's like on that weird sort of line of saying, is it an action classic? Maybe. Maybe? Maybe. If you broaden classic, sure. But like, it wouldn't be like the first thing I would recommend. I don't know if it'd be like the top 100 action films of all time, but I think it would eventually be an expanded list, maybe like a 250, 300, something like that. But yeah, it's got some really great action sequences. It's back when Michael Bay was doing his Michael Bayisms, and then we just realized, oh, that's all he does. So it was still impressive back in 1995. It was still like, oh, this is really cool. Oh, these shots are really cool. Oh, these action sequences are really well shot. And then he just kind of kept doing that. So, yeah. So it's interesting that this film is sort of basically this franchise is 30 years old, and we're just only getting to 4 films. So it's just one of like the slowest developing franchises out there. And I don't think they planned on making a fourth film, which is why the third film is Bad Boys for Life, because you'd think you would save that title for the fourth film. So anyway, it's cheesy, but it is a fourth film title. Really does feel like that. So this just follows the story of 2 cops. One of them, Marcus Burnett, played by Martin Lawrence, is married and has his own, squabbles. And Will Smith, Mike Lowry, it's an easy name to remember because Martin Lawrence has to say it like 5,000 times, is a little bit more of a playboy. He's single. He's a trust fund kid who was left a lot of money, so he drives flashy cars. He lives in a fancy apartment, but he's still a cop. So he's got financial resources. Marcus does not. Marcus just has a normal cop salary, but they make really good partners together. And it kind of shows you, like, right off the bat in an opening sequence when somebody's trying to carjack them, because Mike drives around in fancy cars, and they just both these two actors are really good with talking fast, and they talk fast, and they bounce off of each other really well, and that chemistry is really what makes the film work. It's funny because they're both sort of like known for being somewhat difficult to work with. Martin Lawrence especially. I've always heard that about Martin Lawrence. One of the reasons why I don't think he works as much is because a lot of people just don't call him up. I don't know if that's changed with age, if him being on the sideline a lot, but Tisha Campbell's definitely said a lot of stuff about her time on Martin. And of course, Will Smith, this is 1995, so it's not that far removed from his time on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This is arguably the film that really makes him a movie star. This is before Independence Day, this is before Men in Black. So Bad Boys was the film that really took Martin Lawrence and Will Smith off of your TV screens and onto the big screen, and proved that they had the chops to sell a movie and that they could carry it. And they did such a really great job in these in this pairing, in these roles. It's kind of amazing that we didn't get more Bad Boys films quickly. Kind of feels weird that we didn't commit more. I know that their careers kind of both took off a little bit more, especially Will Smith. Will Smith's career just kind of skyrocketed. He became the July 4th savior. We just kept getting a Will Smith movie on every July 4th weekend there for a little while. But Martin Lawrence had some hit films thrown his way too. So it's interesting that we had to wait, not quite 10 years. We had to wait like 8 years for Bad Boys 2, and then like way longer for Bad Boys 3 for the third Bad Boys for Life. So now we're getting a fourth one that's probably arguably the closest. Like between 3 and 4 is the least amount of time, because Martin Lawrence and Will Smith really don't have as much to do anymore. Yeah. So wonder why. I don't know. It's a question. It's a question to be asked. But they can do Bad Boys films, but they're a lot older. But they still have that chemistry, and that's what drew people in the first time around. This plot's pretty simple. There's some sort of drug overlord kingpin robbery thing that they have to uncover, like, who is it? And they've got their boss, Joe Pantoliano, is just constantly yelling at them. He's great in this franchise. And they have to figure out the details behind it, do some detective work. Meanwhile, there's this sort of like party for one that Téa Leoni gets invited to with her friend, who is a call girl that knows Mike, and also, is friends, and makes a statement to her like, if I ever got in trouble, I would call Mike. So after Téa survives this sort of, shootout thing where her best friend dies, and some of the other people who were there, and now they're trying to find this witness who can place their faces or whatever. She goes to the one person that she knows, Mike Lowry, except Mike is off because he realized that this girl that he likes is dead, and so he's off moping. So instead, Martin Lawrence has to pretend to be Mike Lowry, so it takes her a while. She's oddly forgiving about it. It's probably one of the biggest, is the way that she starts kind of like toying with him and trying to get it out of him is one of like the weirdest things about the film, because you would think she'd feel more betrayed. But at this point, I think she's realizing that they just flipped, and so that Will Smith's character is Michael Lowry, but she still doesn't understand why, like, what's up, like, why. And it's up to these two to protect her and protect the witness and solve the crime, defeat the crime boss in the most Michael Bay way possible. So explosions, gunfights, big set pieces, car chases, whatever it is that you got, he throws it in here. So yeah, Bad Boys. It's a really solid action film. That's something that I've really enjoyed watching over the years, like casually on cable. I don't know that I've ever just like popped a Bad Boys DVD in before. I think I've just always just caught it on, and I did that again here. Sadly, it doesn't have audio description. So what do you miss with audio description? Well, it's an action movie. So the action, like the whole sequence with Téa Leoni's character makes like no sense without audio description, because it's really hard to tell like who's shooting at who and who just died. And like, she's off trying to be like really quiet and hide somewhere, but you don't really know where she's hiding. The whole sequence is just odd without audio description. Even from somebody who's seen it before, I was like, I mean, I kind of remember this sequence, but like this is not like ingrained, like burned in my memory, you know? It was an odd sequence. Obviously like car chases are way less interesting if you don't know what's happening. Like they reference the fact that he's driving a fancy car, you don't know what kind of car. He Martin Lawrence has to figure out a way to get into Mike's apartment so he can pretend to be Mike Lowry and protect Taya Leoni. And so normally that would be a place where you would get a description of the opulence in which Mike lives in. And Marcus hilariously like trips over furniture and he's saying stuff like, "Why am I tripping over furniture that I know is there?" It's just like, I don't know. What did you even trip over? I have no idea. While I remember broad things from having seen this film, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 times. I don't remember all of it, so piecing it together without audio description was a little bit difficult. Um, the humor is in the conversation between Mike and Marcus, which is one of the reasons why this wasn't like the worst experience I've had with a film without audio description, is because a lot of times the entertainment value is just in them bouncing dialogue off of each other. I don't know how much of the script they actually stuck to, but if they stuck to none of it, it wouldn't surprise me. If this was all just improv, it would not surprise me at all. But who knows? I don't know. I feel like there's probably a lot of ad-libbing that made it into the film, but they just have a really good rapport, and that's kind of what makes the film work. But it is an action film, and it is a Michael Bay film, so um, I realize, you know, Hulu probably didn't have a priority for putting an audio description up for this, um, but maybe they should. So anyway, with that happy thought, I'm going to give Bad Boys the grade of unwatchable if you're blind or visually impaired. Based on how I remember Bad Boys, the last time I saw it was probably a few years ago. It's been at least 7 years, I can tell you that. But even before that, based on the sort of like conglomeration, trying to grade what I remember, like I said, I don't think this is Die Hard. This is not like this doesn't like track at the very top for me. This track's like right below it. So I would give Bad Boys an A minus. I think it's like just directly below that. And it doesn't track as being like one of my favorite films of all time, where I would unabashedly give it that A plus regardless of quality, which I do to some films like Deep Blue Sea. Because I just really enjoy it. Bad Boys is something that I really like. I think the first film is really good. But I also think that a lot of this has to do with casting and not so much with the plot or even Michael Bay's direction. I think if this didn't have Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in it, I don't think this film would have worked. So this is when we talk about a casting Oscar this year, this is really the kind of stuff that you need to be asking yourself: is what was actually brilliant casting, and putting those two together in a film worked really well, and that is what sells this franchise. So you can check it out. If you can find it with audio description, please do. And if you are in the position to put audio description on it, please do. Uh, you know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.